At the moment, there's a conversation going on, and it's starting here in New Zealand around the future of the game. And Kirsty's going to give us a bit of an update about what's happening this week, as all of a sudden some major players, Kirsty, get around the table to talk about the future of our game.
Yes, there is trouble in paradise. Basically, a major standoff between the players, or the voice that represents the players in New Zealand, and New Zealand Rugby. This, of course, is all about the 15% potential sale of New Zealand Rugby commercial assets to an American technology company, Silverlake Capital. Now, it's all very confusing. It's quite messy as well. I've tried to understand it, and it is extremely difficult. But basically, the Players Association have said they oppose the sale. And now New Zealand Rugby, the Players Association, Super Rugby and the provincial unions are all meeting on Wednesday. Jeff, what do you think they're going to get out of that mediation?
Well, they need to get a lot out of it, and they need to come up with some solutions. Thanks, Kirsty. The fact that these are challenging times, and the numbers we're talking about are huge, Smithy. And I'm going to start with you. The fact that when all of these players are having a conversation, what's important to you that they are considering when you start talking about the future of our game?
I'm like everyone else, I suppose. I feel a bit compromised here. So I've got a lot of time for Mark Robinson and Steve Lancaster, who are running this process from a New Zealand Rugby Union point of view. Got a lot of time for David Kirk and Rob Nichol and the players, of course, who are contesting the process. I like Ian Kirkpatrick's group that are looking at something different around how to get more kids involved in the game, how to get more volunteers back in the game, how do we link with schools rugby. So I think it's a really difficult situation. I like the fact I was on NZRPA call a couple of weeks ago, as you were, Jeff, and I like the fact that David Kirk and Rob Nichol, whilst they're against the New Zealand Rugby Players Association, whilst they're against the investment, at least they put up a couple of alternatives to raise the same sort of money. All I know, though, is that we need the money. So we need money to invest so that we're not just reliant on filling stadiums to keep the game going. So somehow we need to get the capital, have the people with capability to invest that money, to make sure that we've always got a fund there for the game, and that a certain amount of that money goes to clubs, community. We've got to start thinking about, we always ask about why doesn't community come and support us? I think we've got to change the question, and how do we help community? So what can we do for them? And I think that's the way to get them involved again. But most of the volunteers are my age or older now, so you're going to have some money to get the right people in the right places, I think.
Yeah, look, I think it is, like Kirst said, it's complicated. So Silverlake wants to come in, they want to buy 15%. The New Zealand Rugby Union carve out the commercial rights, put it in a separate entity, and they believe to sell that for 10 or 15% for $465 million. A lot of the older players believe that this money needs to be spent to invest in the grassroots and get that back healthy, because it's unhealthy at the moment. I think the other thing that the New Zealand Rugby want to do with that money is secure the future financially. I think where the players are coming at it, they are concerned about selling off the commercial rights, which they are part of. So how do you recover that? The other thing that the players were concerned about is the expertise to grow that $465 million to $1 billion. So where we're going to get the expertise. They feel that sometimes it might be less as well. And when I say they, look, it's Rob Nichol and David Kirk at the moment. I think it's really important that the players are not going this week. So the only thing that concerns me, and I asked this question, how is the relationship? And everyone said, yeah, no, it's good. But then why would we go into mitigation? I've never seen a good relationship go to mitigation. So that saddens me a wee bit. You know, we should be able to sort this out. Wayne's right. We need this. We need the money in the game at the moment, and so that needs to be resolved. I think that at the end of the day, the players need to be careful of one thing. The leadership of the NZRFU, NZU, you need to have faith that they're making the right decision for the game moving forward. And so I'm really hoping, as Smithy is, as we all are, that it's going to be sorted out on Wednesday, because it's not good for the game.
A mess from someone who's officially retired?
No, not yet.
Not yet. So from a former professional player, are you still a former professional player? Is that the way?
I was still getting paid, so.
Oh, so it's not that either. All right.
Definitely need the money.
You definitely need the money if you're still getting paid. But from
problem.
someone who's well and truly been inside the professional environment as a player, you're looking at these discussions, and do you think that everyone's fully aware that how critical they are for the future of our game?
I think everyone's aware how critical it is for the game. It's just a very complex thing. Like, I don't even have my head around it, and I'm probably not in a good enough position to comment on it. But what I do know, which is good, is that they are going to the table and have these tough discussions, because these tough discussions need to be had for the benefit of our game. And I think just for me, as long as they keep the grassroots strong, like a club like this, like Hautapu, like keeping our grass level strong, because that's where, at the end of the day, that's where the All Blacks come from. They come from grassroots, you come from your local primary school, whatever it may be. So as long as they keep that strong and thing, then New Zealand Rugby or the All Black brand's always going to be strong.
I mean, from my point of view, aren't we now in a position to be able to evolve? And this is massive in terms of where our game is. You know, every year we sit in, you know, in the studio, we'll talk about things, and we go on tour, and what's the one thing everyone always talks about is the funding. There's not enough funding in our sort of grassroots. You know, we struggle to get people to the games. We struggle to get registration. So, isn't that what we're actually needing? If we had 2 independent reviews from, you know, very capable companies that are saying this is probably the best model, then, you know, isn't that looking like the way we should really go? Now, there is the other side of it too, you know, because we don't actually know what this money is actually going to. So when we say, you know, we're going to collect $400 million, well, we've got to make sure it's going somewhere, but we haven't got enough information in terms of that. Now, I totally understand where the Players Association are coming from. You know, they're protecting where, you know, their investment and with the players and things. But I think until we get sort of, you know, certainty in what's actually happening, you know, we're still going to be stuck in the same position. What I don't want is in, you know, 3 or 4 years' time, we're still in the same position, but probably worse, because there's no money left over.
And Smithy, that's important, right? When you start thinking about where we were 25 years ago, because that's when it started, this professional game. But for us to have got to this point, we obviously haven't got something right, and things have changed, and we haven't adapted. And I mean, for you, have you got the confidence that they are the right people? Because the people you've talked about, the fact that they all care deeply about the game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There are a lot of people in this country that care deeply about it, whichever side of the fence they're on. I mean, this is all through, a lot of the stuff going on at the moment is about passion for the game. What I do know is that there are 65 million All Black supporters worldwide, and to monetise that, to actually get them to give us $10 each would just about be enough. But how do you do that without expertise? You know, there's not the capability within the union at the moment to be able to do that. So that's a big part of the equation for me.
Yeah, look, I just hope that both parties realise that this is a critical moment. Smithy and I are a bit older than you guys. You've been through a couple of them yourselves, but we've been through a few.
Was that hard for you to say?
Yeah, it was.
Good.
But we've been through a few. You professionals, you guys have been through, and Goldie, you'll remember very well when the game was trying to be taken over by other media groups. You know, I think there's also a bigger picture at play here. The world game is up for grabs from a media point of view, so there's a lot going on. I come back to, don't underestimate how important this is for our game and a key moment. We don't want to make the mistakes, so we need to sit down and make sure we make the right decision. And it needs to happen quick, because they will take that check off the table, right?
And we will go in more depth when we get back in studio next week at Sky, give you more details as things go out. From my perspective, just quickly, is there are other players as well here. There are provincial unions, there are Super Rugby franchises, people who are invested in the game, and they need direction, they need help. We may need to make some sort of sacrifices together to get the best